Good morning. In numeracy this week, we are going to work on operations with fractions. You will see questions that look like this. In order to do these properly, you have to have a very good understanding of these concepts that we've been covering in the past weeks. If you still have not had enough time to do these properly, please go back and work on these outcomes first before you carry on with today's lesson. I can't slow down and talk about each one of these individual concepts today, otherwise this video is just way too long. We should also quickly review order of operations. We have this acronym BEDMAS to help us. In today's questions, we don't have any brackets or exponents though, and so we can remove this, and we just need to remember that division and multiplication come before addition and subtraction. And if you have a question that just has division and multiplication, or just addition and subtraction, that we do these in the order they appear, or we say left to right. We'll see a couple examples of that. Let's get started. In our first question here, we have 2 over 3 plus 1 over 3 times 6 over 7. The first thing you want to do is identify what are you going to do first. Are we going to add these two fractions together, or are we going to multiply these two? We're going to do our multiplication first, right here. So when we get started, we put our equal sign to show that we're going to work down below. And this 2/3 doesn't just disappear. It comes down to the next line, so we write it there. But what we're going to do is calculate this product first, and then that product comes into this next line right here. Remember, when you multiply fractions, cancel out any common factors that you see first. 6 and 3 have a common factor of 3. So I would cancel out that factor of 3, which means I'm going to divide it out, and then I'll multiply. 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 7 is 7. So my next line simply says 2/3 plus 2 over 7. So basic addition with fractions. Remember, we need an LCD, or a lowest common denominator, when we're adding and subtracting with fractions. In this case, it would be 21. So as I come down to my next line, I'm just going to write in 21 as the denominator, and then I'm going to make my fractions equivalent, going from 3 to 21, so I'm multiplying by 7. 2 times 7 is 14. Here I'm multiplying by 3, so to keep it equivalent, multiply 2 by 3 to get 6, and then we just add our numerators. 14 plus 6 is 20, and denominator doesn't change. All right. In our next question here, we have 5 over 6 minus 2 over 3 divided by 4/5. Again, identify what are you going to do first. It's the division. So as always, we work down, we'll put our equal sign. We'll just bring down this 5/6 for now, and we'll figure out what 2/3 divided by 4/5 is. Remember, when we do division with fractions, we multiply the reciprocal. So we'll start off by writing that out, and now we can perform our multiplication. Again, just bring that 5/6 down to the next line before you do that. And then take a look at your numerators and your denominators. Can you cancel common factors? Yes, we can. 2 and 4 have a common factor of 2, so let's factor that out. And now we can multiply. 1 times 5 is 5, and 3 times 2 is 6. All right, 5/6 minus 5/6, that's an easy one. That'll take us down to 0. In our next example, we have mixed numbers. We can add and subtract with mixed numbers, but with multiplication and division, we need to convert those to improper fractions. And so what we have is a subtraction and a multiplication. Obviously, the multiplication comes first. So same thing, we come down to the next line. I'll bring down this 9.5, and then I'm going to change these to improper fractions. So I'll get 8/3 multiplied by 13 over 4. So now I need to do this multiplication. Again, I need to come down here, bring down 9.5, that hasn't gone anywhere yet. And I'm going to cancel out common factors before I multiply. 8 and 4, greatest common factor there is 4. So we start off by factoring that out, and then we can multiply. 2 multiplied by 13 is 26, and 3 times 1 is 3. So now I have a mixed number subtracting an improper fraction. So what I'm going to do is just take this improper fraction on the right, and I'm going to convert that to a proper mixed fraction. That converts to 8 and 2/3. All right, so now I'm back to adding and subtracting with fractions, which means I need a lowest common denominator. And when working with a 2 and a 3, that'll be 6. So again, I'm just going to use a step here to convert my fractions to have a denominator with 6. And I write in my numerators afterwards, nice and carefully. And then before I do my subtraction, I just take a careful look here. I can do 9 minus 8, so I can subtract my whole numbers. But remember, you got to look at your fraction parts here. Can you do 3 take away 4? You can't. So we're going to borrow 1 from the 9 to make that 8. And then remember, we add 6 to the numerator because that's our denominator. So we get 8 and 9, 6, minus 8 and 4, 6. Starting to run out of room here, so I'll draw a little arrow, bring my work over here, and put my equal sign. So 9 minus 4, I get 5 over 6, and we're in lowest terms, final answer. All right, another one with mixed numbers. Here we're adding and dividing. Again, I can add and subtract with these mixed numbers, but these are going to have to change to improper fractions because we're going to do our division first. Put your equal sign, bring down that first fraction because we're going to add it later to whatever the quotient is here. Change these to improper fractions. I get 22 over 5 divided by 11 over 3. Remember, when we have division, we need to take a step and change that to multiplication. So I'm going to get 22 over 5 times 3 over 11. Good, so now I can do this multiplication. So I'm going to come down and bring this first fraction down and then do my multiplication. 22 and 11 have a greatest common factor of 11. So let's factor that out, make our numbers quite a bit smaller here. Then we'll multiply. 2 times 3 is 6, and 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, so again, I have this situation with a mixed number adding improper. So I'm going to use a step here, and I'm going to change this to 1 and 1/5. All right, let's bring our work up over here. I'm adding fractions. I need a lowest common denominator. So when working with a 10 and a 5, that's going to be 10. So the first fraction won't change. That's going to stay 2 and 9 over 10. And then I'm going to add 1 and something over 10. Well, the denominator used to be a 5, so I was timesing by 2. To make this fraction equivalent, times 1 by 2, so I get 1 and 2/10. Add your whole numbers together, 2 plus 1 is 3, and when you add your fractions, you get this, 11 over 10. So this part of it here, that's improper. So remember what we do here. Our whole number stays as is for now, and we're just going to convert this improper fraction to a proper mixed number. So 3 and 11/10 is 3 and 1 and 1/10. Now I can add those whole numbers up to get 4 and 1/10. Lots of steps. You need to do them all. Don't try and skip steps. That's where we make mistakes. All right, so here we go. Here we have a question where we have addition and subtraction in the same question. And a lot of times students will do this one wrong here because when we look at our BEDMAS acronym, we know that we go top down and we'll see the A, which means addition, come before the S, which means subtraction. So we think, oh, I have to do this addition first. But remember, this category, addition and subtraction, is in the order they appear, left to right. So we're going to do this subtraction first. We can leave everything as mixed numbers because we're adding and subtracting. We don't need to convert to improper. But we do need to have a common denominator. And so when I add these first two fractions together, I have a 5 and a 3. I need a common denominator of 15. So that'll be my first step. To make them equivalent, compare your denominators, timesing by 3, times your numerator by the same number. And remember, this hasn't gone anywhere yet, this 3.5, so that has to stay there until we use it. So now let's come down and we can do our subtraction. 4 take away 1 is 3, but you can't do 9 minus 10. So now we need to borrow again. So that'll become a 3. Remember, add your denominator up to your numerator, so we'll get 24. And everything else just needs to get written down again. And now we can do this subtraction here. 3 take 1 is 2, And 24 minus 10 is 14. All right, so now we get this. Let's make that look a little nicer. 2 and 14 over 15 plus 3 and 1/2. So we're adding different fractions now. We need to have a common denominator. That's going to be 30. So let's write that in. And then make some equivalent fractions here. We're doubling in this case. And here we're timesing by 15. All right, again, running out of room. Let's come back up here, put our equal sign, and let's add these up. 2 plus 3 is 5. And then we need to add these numerators up. So we've got 28 plus 15, that's 43 over 30. So again, we have this scenario where this part of our fraction is improper. And so we're going to change that to a proper mixed number and then add it back up. 5 plus 1 is 6, and then we have that fractional part of 13 over 30. All right. Last one. So we have our question, we have multiplication and division. Again, we do this in the order left to right, anytime you have just multiplication and division. And this one is a tricky one. It's actually quite a tricky question. First thing we should understand is that we have mixed numbers here. Let's convert them all to improper fractions first. So here we're going to get 14 over 5, multiply this by 11 over 3, and dividing this by 22 over 5. Now, what I'm going to do is change our division in the next step to multiplication, because I know what I have to do is I need to find this product here. That would come down to this line, and then I would take this division and multiply the reciprocal anyway. And the reason why I'm going to do that is I'm looking at this last fraction over here, and I see 22 next to the 11. And I know there's a common factor there, and I know if I reciprocate this, I can do some canceling. And I also see these 5s here. So look what happens. I'm going to get this. I have 14 over 5 times 11 over 3 times 5 over 22. So now I just have 3 fractions all being multiplied together. And before I multiply, remember, I can cancel common factors. So look what happens now. I have 5 and 5 with a common factor of 5. Okay, so that's nice. 11 and 22 with a common factor of 11. So we factor that out and we get this. But I still have this 14 and this 2 that have a common factor of 2. So when I factor that out, look how small all my numbers have become. So now I'd multiply straight across. 7 times 1 is 7. And my denominator, 1 times 3 times 1 is 3. Excellent. Nice and small. Very easy to take this number now. It's in lowest terms. I just need to convert it to a proper mixed number, which is 2 and 1/3. Like I said at the beginning, there is a lot involved in doing these questions, and this video obviously is a little bit longer because of that. Spend some time going through this video a few times, pause and replay certain sections if you need to. If you're stuck with certain concepts, please get in touch with us. Good luck on all your questions today. Spend a good amount of time on these, and good luck on your assessment as well.